Cooper. Cooper with a great chance. Cooper must make it 4. He does.
The Full-Time Review Show is brought to you and supported by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental. And if you are in Abu Dhabi this week, my suggestion to you is get yourself along to the ADIPEC Energy exhibition. It's the largest in the region, and a host of Craig International staff members will be there. They will be absolutely delighted to see you, and if you can go along and say hello, I suggest you do just that and say hello on my behalf. These are the pre-kickoff scenes from Hampden on Saturday. My thanks to Mark Main for taking these shots for me and allowing me to use these pictures. One bad result certainly should not define our season, and more importantly, it should not derail it. We learn, we come together, and we move on to the next. It's all about the reaction, starting with Dundee on Saturday. Hi everybody, how you doing? A very warm welcome to Ali Beg AB TV this Monday night. Well, wasn't that a bit sobering on Saturday night? I have to be honest, on the preview show, I was so looking forward to this game. I felt that we could lay a glove on them. I felt we had a hell of a chance, but unfortunately, it just didn't happen. It didn't happen at all. Celtic were quite simply in top gear. They were irresistible, and we couldn't compete. There was nothing we could do. Any reasonably minded football fan, I'm sure, will recognise that when they are absolutely at the top of their game, there is nobody in Scotland that can stop them. And unfortunately, they steamrolled us on Saturday. It is the first time within a 90-minute game that we have lost a game for 234 days, which is actually a club record outside the 2 world wars. So, where we have to take stock is quite simply, we have to take our medicine. We have to learn. We have to clean our bloody nose. We dust ourselves down and we simply get on with it. Yumi has come out, and I've got a couple of quotes from him that I want to bring to you, and has basically said this result will not derail our season. We have had an incredible start to the season, a phenomenal start, a start that I don't think any of us saw coming. And there's going to be bumps along the road. And Yumi has already come out and said it's a 3-year plan. And if we continue on the trajectory that we are for the next 3 years, God knows where we could be. So yes, it was a sore one. It was a sobering one. It punched us in the gut, but it will not derail us. And that's the most important thing. And it's now absolutely up to Yimi and his coaching staff and to the players now to pick themselves up, to put this game to bed, to forget about it, learn from it, obviously learn from it, and just go again. We have a full house on Saturday afternoon with a huge expected crowd. And what we're looking for now is just the reaction. Just get back to doing what you've been doing in the league. Let's not forget, we are still joint top. Only difference is goal difference. So tonight, this is the review show. If you're watching for the very first time, because we've added nearly 200 new subscribers in the past 28 days alone, thank you for jumping on board. Thank you for getting involved. If you would like to be part of the show tonight, you are more than welcome to leave your comments. underneath the main video, just leave your comment. I will do my best to read it out tonight and get you involved. All that I ask is that you don't use bad language, because I simply won't read it out. And also, if you want to interact with your fellow fans, particularly if you are a fan of another club, please be respectful. This is a safe haven for football fans to come on and have their say without fear of getting abuse. I'm banging the drum, and I will continue to bang the drum. It is hugely important to me that this place feels like a family of football fans who can come on and can chat and leave comments without getting grief. If there is any grief, we simply will not tolerate it. It's as simple as that. You will not be welcome back anymore. So please keep your comments nice and respectful. I'm very much looking forward to reading out your comments tonight. So, the team news. So Jimmy basically decided to stick with the same starting 11 that started against Rangers on Wednesday night. Since then, it has been interesting to read a fair few comments that a lot of fans think that he should have maybe freshened things up slightly. Now, I confess I was one of those fans who on Friday night said I would have liked to have seen things freshened up slightly. But he stuck with the same team. Esther was up front on his own and unfortunately just chased shadows all day. I will bring you the match stats in just a moment because it just goes to show the gulf. But let's get Jimmy on. Let's just get a couple of quotes from him. So he said, "The game is over. We are out. The most important for us now is how you act when you have setbacks, how you work tomorrow, how we prepare for the next game, how you keep the strength in your identity. Don't lose the belief. I feel that core is still strong." He also went on to say, like we've just been saying, you have to learn from these situations, and that's the most important thing. It should be more of a learning opportunity than a setback. So here are your match stats. So 53% of possession to our 47%. And I confess, I was a little bit surprised by that. I didn't actually realise we were that close to them. They had 12 shots in total to our 3, of which 8 of theirs were on target to just our 1. We only forced their goalkeeper to make 1 save in the game. It was a really, really tough shift. I have to say, I thought we actually started the game quite well. I thought we were quite bright. I thought we were matching them. And I thought, yeah, we're actually doing okay here. But the first 3 goals that we conceded absolutely killed us. We had an opportunity to clear the ball inside our own 18-yard box. There was a little bit of ping pong in the box, but we had an opportunity to clear it and we didn't. That led to the corner. I don't know if you saw Andrew Considine talking about the goal at half time. It was really interesting where he is not an advocate of zonal marking at all. And I have to be honest, neither am I. I don't get zonal marking at all. You know, my generation of playing football, which is born in the 1970s, we were taught to attack and win a ball, no matter where it was in the 18-yard box. And if it meant you take out one of your own teammates, then so be it. It's all about attacking the ball and winning it. It's not about just being responsible for a 2 square meter yardage that you happen to be standing in. I think it's an absolute nonsense. Now, whether that was the tactics deployed or not on Saturday, I don't know. But it looked like it. If there is a ball there to be attacked, attack it. The second goal, obviously, it was a short pass from Nielsen to Ruby. Ruby couldn't commit because he was obviously on a yellow card. They break up the pitch and score. Their third goal killed it, absolutely killed it. And like Andrew said, there had been warnings about Maeda getting in behind Nicky Devlin, getting in behind his shoulder on the blind side of Nicky. And Nicky got caught out for the third time. And unfortunately, they scored the third, which killed the contest as a game. Delighted to see, though, that Nicky got called back to the Scotland squad for the upcoming Nations League games, which is fantastic to see, and again, very well deserved. So unfortunately, our players on the day where we really needed them to have a 10 out of 10 performance, unfortunately, were nowhere near it. So I just hope they have the mental strength to bounce back from this and just see it as a bump on the road, and that there is a bigger picture here. That's the most important thing for me. There is a bigger picture here. And that's what they've got to keep thinking about. So yeah. Right, let's get you on. Got a feeling it's going to be a busy show tonight. Right, let me just pause that. Okay, George Findlay first came on and said, it was always going to be a hard shift. Sevco Wednesday and them on Saturday. Just wish we created some chances. Roll on Saturday. Come on, your Reds. Bob Duff says, lessons will need to be learned from all of us. We've won plenty matches by being very positive, but on Saturday, we heavily lost the game by being too positive. Should have played a third midfielder. Gordon Keith Ritchie says, good evening all. Saturday's game was always going to be difficult, but after what we were last season, it's a big improvement, and not much teams would have beat Celtic on that form. In Yimmy, we trust. Duncan Wright is here. He said, well, that was a lesson for us. Celtic were sharper, full of running. I think the 6 changes they made did that for us. Shame it was 6. We shipped. On we go on to Saturday. Dundee. Right. I just want to very quickly thank a gentleman called Andrew McLeod, who has just become an ABTV member. Andrew, thank you so much for signing up. Thank you for your financial commitment to the channel. And I promise you, I give you my word that everything that is collected through the membership will very much go to good use on this channel. I think you can see from the start of the season that we've already started to make small changes. And your help is helping me do that. So Andrew, thank you so much for committing to me. I'm extremely grateful, and I will be in touch with you personally. Paul C. Riki says, brought down to earth with a bang. Didn't expect to win, but didn't expect a spanking. I have to be honest. I didn't see that result coming in a month of Sundays. I never expected a 6-0 tanking. I really didn't. It was a hell of a punch in the gut. You know, and let's also not forget. Let's not forget. They made all those changes to their game in midweek. They went quality for quality. And then when they brought their players on, I'm looking at the players that they're bringing on, and I'm just like, it was giving me the fear of God. It really was. When you think of their resources and the money that they spent on these players in comparison to ours, there is no comparison because it's night and day. So, yeah, look, at the end of the day, it's how we compete on the field of play. I've always said it. I will always continue to say it. Unfortunately, they were just miles ahead of us. Scott W says, no excuses. We move on to Saturday. Very simply, we weren't at it. Celtic were as good as they're going to be. We lost the game. We bounced back. Angie Jameson is on. Hi, Angie. She says, good evening, Dandies. I never expected us to win, but 6-0 hurt a lot. First time for me, Yimmy got it wrong, and the boys were dead on their feet. I'm sure he'll learn from the experience. It's all good. Scott W came back to say, we've got a chance to go on another run of games unbeaten. Saturday is the focus now, and that's where our thoughts have to be right now. Kaiser has said, an absolutely abysmal performance. Kaiser, you're hurting, as I expected you would be, mate. Scott W came back again to say the biggest and best in world football lose heavily, but they bounce back. That's what we have to do. Show it hasn't affected the momentum. Kaiser, to be fair, makes a good point. He says, everybody is going on about the Gulf, but we shouldn't be getting beat like that from anyone. Do you know, I have to be honest, Kaiser, I agree with that. You know, we shouldn't be losing games 6-0. We absolutely shouldn't. Stuart Cleary says, there was a stage in the second half, wasn't sure how much they'd score. It could easily have been 9-0. They were ruthless and we were dead men walking. Angie came back to say, Celtic showed their strength and depth and they were ruthless. Knew exactly where to hurt us. Game done now. Time to move on. Mike Findlay, Tailgate Talk, says, poor performance, but I don't like to judge our season on games versus them. They should beat everyone with their financial budget. We're only just a couple of months into a long journey under JT. Alexander Wallace said, evening dandies, don't despair, all runs come to an end. It's how you recover from disappointment that counts. We will be back on it against Dundee. That said, it was a gut-wrenching watch. Mike Findlay came back to say, if anyone had said halfway through last season that this season we would be where we are now, having sold Bojan, I think I'd have asked what they were smoking. Stuart Cleary said, semi-final is history. We start again on Saturday against Dundee and keep our league form intact. Yimmy will have them focused again for this one. Just need to show it was a blip and we go again. Colin Gale says, I was devastated with the result. Where have you gone, Colin? There you are. However, when you have to play your strongest side 3 times in the week and the best club in Scotland rest half their team against Dundee, the tank will be dry. Scott W. said, the disparity in Scotland is greater than any nation in Europe, possibly the world. Realistically, Celtic should be hammering every team by at least 6. Kirstine is on. How are we doing, Kirstine? She says, good evening, Ali and fellow dandies. Hopefully a win on Saturday against Dundee will lift us all again. Stuart Malcolm says, it was a long day and a terrible result and a very difficult watch, but it happened and we can't change it. So on to the Dundee game and I can't wait. Neil's on, wishing everyone a good evening. Scott W., that is actually a great point. He says to me, on a slight change of topic, you should start your show at 1903. I absolutely love that. And you know what, Scott? I'm going to do that from now on. We go on air at 1903. That's genius, mate. Alan George says, quite simply, we have to take the rough with the smooth. David Gold Rally Vids is on, wishing everyone a good evening. He came back to say, it's sickening what happened, but we have to move on. Johnny Wilson makes a good point. So he says, the Celtic squad value for 2024 is 106.8 million. Ours is about 15 million, including the 2.5 million value for Nisbet. Way bigger difference than Celtic against Dortmund. And look how that turned out. David Scott says, it's time to reset, I think. Anybody could have been beaten by that scoreline against Celtic. Annoying as it looked a bit flat after the Rangers exploits. Grey Pilgrim says, one result doesn't make or break our season. Yimmy is moving us in the right direction and we'll have better days ahead. Barry Cole came on. How are we doing, Barry? He says, good evening, dandies. We move on and we go again on Saturday. We have to remember, Brendan rested 6 to 7 players on Wednesday night, and that was after the 2-2 at Celtic Park. We don't have the luxury or squad depth. Graham Klein is here saying, the mind-blowing thing is the SPL continues to play matches midweek before a cup semi-final. Shame the squad isn't deep enough to rest 8 against Rangers. Head up and we move on. Xander Moore is here saying, good evening, Ali. Evening all. Terrible result, but the real problem is if we don't get a reaction against Dundee, that will tell us what we're made of. Spoke to some dandies and no one is bothered. Bob came back to say the team looked very tired on Saturday. Barry said, we will have bumps on the road. Be prepared for more. So many of you here are saying it's all about the reaction on Saturday. It 100% is. You know, and again, a lot of you are saying, you know, we should not be getting scuttled by 6 goals. A lot of you are really disappointed with the actual scoreline itself. Doug Smith says, no point dwelling on it. Let's get back on it. It's one of those results that happens. I have to say, Ruby's still making erratic decisions under pressure. I'd give Angus a run. I've got to be honest. I'm going to try and put my team together for the Dundee game over the next sort of 24 to 48 hours. And I'm going to freshen things up. Because I think it needs it. I think there's a couple of players who are out of sorts at the moment. And I just think it needs to be freshened up. Neil makes a great point. He says, when was the last time you saw a crowd stay like that, like what the Dandies did? I have to say, again, and I keep saying it, but the fans that travel to our games outside of Aberdeen are just incredible. I saw the supporters' buses. I saw a number of posts from people who travelled down from Aberdeen, and the majority stayed on to clap the team at the end, outsang the Celtic fans. Just an absolute credit to the players, to the club, and to yourselves. And as gutted as I was at the end of that game, that lifted me. To see all those fans stay behind and show the players, look, we're still behind you. We're right here. We're not going anywhere. We're still behind you. And that was the message. And for me, that speaks volumes of where we are in terms of supporting this football club at the moment. And it's absolutely brilliant. Kenwell Metal Detectives says 4-0 on Saturday will be the perfect remedy. Greg Pilgrim saying Brendan falling on his backside, that was our highlight. It was hilarious. What was he doing? Bizarre, wasn't it? A gift for you today doesn't appear to be too happy, but he makes a good point. He says, it was obvious that this was going to happen. Some supporters getting carried away with lucky 1-goal wins. Now is the time to see what Jimmy is all about. I got to be honest with you, I sense your frustration, but I don't think our sort of late winners and 1-goal deficits have been luck. I think it's been fight and determination and a will to get the job done. And a sort of never say die attitude. I don't think they've been lucky. Bruce Strother says, saw one on Saturday. Celtic were good, but we were just terrible on the night. Defence too deep and too big a gap between Nielsen and Shinnie and front four. It's gone now, so reset. Let's go again. Scott Bowie says, you can live with 1 or 2 below par, but when 8 players, you just can't live with that. Didn't help Celtic. We were very clinical in front of goal. Celtic were very clinical in front of goal. Jimmy won't let the players' heads go down. Again, there's a lot of you on commenting about... so did you see yesterday that at Old Trafford that John Hewitt was sat next to Sir Alex Ferguson in the director's box? Alan Burrows was there. Jimmy Talleen was there. Dave Cormack was there. And now whether this was pre-planned weeks in advance, I don't know. But I'm kind of hoping that it wasn't. I'm kind of hoping that Jimmy got a call from the boss to say, come down as my guest. Take your mind off it. Come down and watch us play against Chelsea. That's what I'm really hoping. I hope it was an off-the-cuff invitation. What do you think? Jude says it was a shocking performance. I didn't even think Celtic were that good. They didn't need to be. It was a real sore one, he says. Jack Chrissy says, good evening, Ali and Co. Sobering thing on Saturday. I was interviewed on Footy Adventures video for the game pre-match and said we could win today. How wrong was I? Looked leggy from the Gers game. Paul Hurd says, put that behind us and let's all show enthusiasm at 3 o'clock on Saturday. Dave B, it's like a point we kind of spoke about earlier about the good start that we made. He's kind of on the same page here. He says, I felt there was nothing in the game. We switched off for the corner. Ruby made a mistake waiting for the ball. And we've learned the hard way how quick Maeda is. They relaxed and showed what they're capable of. Bruce Struthers says Devlin has been really good this season, but he had a shocker on Saturday, as did others. Fresh faces to start against Dundee. So, you know, the reaction from the media has been interesting. The narrative from fans of other club is as expected. And I've not been surprised by it. I know that by reading some comments that some folk have been irked by it, but I wouldn't be. It was always going to happen. They were always going to say, lay down to Celtic, never up for it against Celtic. The bubble has burst. Now watch you capitulate. You've had a lucky run, blah, blah, blah. Now it's up to the players to ram those words right back down the very throats that they came from. And nothing would give me more pleasure than to do that. To get it right up every single one of those fans from other clubs who were very quick to stick the knife in. And I really hope the players respond to it. In fact, I would take a couple of comments and stick them up on the dressing room wall. Brian P says, we didn't get going down the wings and our midfield was overrun. David Goldrallyford says, let's not forget it's still very early in Jimmy T's era. We are in a much better place than this time last season. Again, a lot of you here, just looking at 4 or 5 comments here, all talking about your concern about the lack of form from Jamie McGrath. We flagged it up. We flagged it up. Gray Pilgrim said, need to stop looking at Shaden Morris as the impact sub. We need to give him a start. I suggested that we started him on Saturday. Scott Stevens says it brought back traumatic memories of the McGee years, but I think we're in a much better place now and we should hopefully prove that this was just a blip. Neil McDonald says, flat, but not shocked at the result. Felt it wasn't going to be our day. We've punched above our weight so far. A little understrength in comparison to the boys in green. Test is now the response. David Horn says, good evening, Ali and fellow dandies. Saturday's already forgotten. We move on to the Dundee game. Charles Craig says, Rodgers learned from us coming back to draw 2-2. We're enjoying having attack-minded players in the team, but one of the aspects Jimmy is aware of is these players' lack of awareness when defending. A lot of you are already looking forward to the Dundee game. Plunge McNugget, if you've been watching from the top, you're asking me any chance of giving Celtic credit. I did exactly that. If you were watching the show at the top, I did exactly that, mate. Derek Griffith says, good evening, Ali. That result hurts, but can't be too hard on the boys, as we have done brilliantly so far this season. See, again, Gordon brings up a good point, which Yimmy actually talked about in his post-match. He said, Gordon Lindsay says, we look knackered after one midweek game, which is worrying. Are we fit enough? So he has basically said, and this is what I really like about him, no excuses for the defeat, none whatsoever. What he's done is he's coming out and saying, this is where we want to be. We want to be playing 3 games a week. We want to be competing in the Cups. And more importantly, we want to be competing in Europe. And this is what we have to aim for, and this is what we're striving for. So these are the type of things, Gordon, that I absolutely think that long term, he is fully invested in and fully preparing our football club for. But you make a great point, because are we fit enough? Are we? Because we did look absolutely dead on our legs on Saturday. A few of you think that Angus MacDonald should start. Plunge McNuggets. You haven't said anything offensive, mate. Not a thing. And I never said that you said anything offensive, fella. What I'm saying is, you asked me the question about giving Celtic credit, and I did at the top of the show. You've not been offensive at all. Kenneth McPherson says, shocked, but a humbling of that proportion puts things into perspective. Mike Findlay, Tailgate Talks, has actually seen a lot of great comments from Celtic fans saying that we didn't let our heads drop and how impressed they have been with us. Brian P says the defence was exposed. We got overrun in midfield. Kirsten came back to say the fans who stayed on Saturday till the end, well done, but a few saying we're not true fans if we left early, which isn't right. We paid our money and we travelled to support the team. DM McDonald, who I think is a Celtic fan, says, you guys have also won a match with Tulane. Something happening there with you guys. A lot more dig and fight in an Aberdeen team that's been seen in years. Thanks for coming on, mate. Tavis Thompson, do you know, I said exactly the same thing to my boy when we were watching this game. He makes a great point. He says, because I was getting frustrated with this, he says, Duke needs to stay on his feet, always goes down and gives possession away. The first 4 balls that went to his feet, he's tumbled. Either he's not been able to control it properly, his first touch has been poor, and this is where Duke has got to learn against teams like Celtic. We cannot afford to be giving the ball away cheaply, and we need the ball to stick. And it didn't, and they kept coming at us wave after wave. So again, for me, just learn from stuff like this. Duncan Shan said, Celtic went into top gear and no one in Scotland can handle them. I thought we were just a little fatigued. Christoph Georges, I think it is. Sorry, Christoph, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your second name. The path to progression goes through setbacks like this. Exactly. Right, guys, we have done nearly 35 minutes. David Swinton quickly jumped on to say, hi, Ali, the result and performance hurts, but we're still joint top of the league and in a great position. If we believe Jimmy in time will work out a better way to play Celtic. Camwell Metal Detective says, Duke flatters to deceive far too much. Not sure I'd have him starting. Okay. Right, guys, I'm going to call it a night. Be nice to finish off. Just be nice. Thank you so much for coming on. I really hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. I know it was... been thinking about how to do it all day today, but we just have to take our medicine. It's as simple as that. Just crack on, and it's all about how we react on Saturday. We all know that. So just before I go, one final little check. Please don't forget. Okay, guys, we're all done. So I'll see you on Friday for the preview show ahead of the game on Saturday. So enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe, be good, and I'll see you again soon. Stand free.